Lee,
How do you do, Joe?
how do you know John Conley?
Is this thing on?
It is.
It's on, okay. Well, I don't know what it was I might have done to impress the man, but I just met him at Festival of the West last year. I was working with Bob Boswell at his True West booth, and I was fortunate enough a year ago, last September, to be on the cover of the magazine and had the feature article inside with True West. And apparently John was impressed with it, but I have no idea why.
I bet I do. What about, Cowboy celebrations? What do you think about them? There should be more of them?
Well, I think they're real important. I'm part of the Arizona State Historical Society's educational department. They have a program called Amazing Arizonans, and we're living historians, and that's what I do, is living history. And they book us in schools to do programs in special events and service clubs and what have you. And I love going to the schools and doing living history. And I can do them with or without the horse. Old Concho is real good with the kids, and he is a crackerjack cow horse. I've got pictures of him, ears back, mouth open, and down on him right after a cow. And I'm not even on him. He's a good one. And I love doing it with the kids. And one of the most common questions that I get asked by the kids, and this tells you what we need to be doing. They say, "What are them things on the back of your shoes?" Well, first I got to tell them, those ain't shoes, they're boots. And then they have no idea what a spur is. Now this is kind of sad. We need to get a hold of these kids and let them know what it's all about. That cowboys were important, that cowboys did have a code, and that cowboys did have a way of life that was good and needs to be emulated. And we all need to get out there and do something about that.
What about some of your favorite cowboys and cowgirls?
There's one cowboy that influenced me more than anybody else in the entire world. And I became acquainted with him when I was in the 8th grade through his book, Smokey the Cow Horse. And that's Will James. And Will James was a real cowboy. In his books, they don't deal with bank robbers and shootouts and none of that. It's real working cowboys, and it's real exciting stuff. You get on one of them broncs and that thing takes you down through the brush, and you better believe it's exciting.
That's right. So, what's cowboy life mean to you?
Well, I'm not real sure what cowboy life means to me, but from the time my mom has a picture of me in diapers. Now, it was taken a few years ago, by the way. And I was sitting on a horse in front of my Uncle Darrell Drake, and Mom said every time I got near a horse after that, I'd throw a bloody fit to get on it. And I've been on one ever since. Well, in the Midwest where I grew up, if horses were your interest, the next interest was cowboys. And as I read about the cowboys in my research, somewhere around the fringe edges of the cowboy life would be the Mexican. And there would be comments on what a fantastic roper they were and how their horses would perform so spectacular. And I started wondering, well, now wait a minute, where did these guys learn it? If they're better than our cowboys at it, where did they learn it? And I started studying the old Spanish, and this is one of the characters that I can do in living history, is the 1750 Spanish colonial vaquero. Now, everybody here is familiar with the term buckaroo, aren't you? Yeah, all right. You know, the Spanish pronunciation is not vaquero. The Spanish pronunciation is bucaro, or buckaroo. So, the buckaroo was roping and branding cattle 300 years before the American cowboy. So he had a long time to learn it. Now, the problem was there was no documentation of it. The American cowboys, the writers from the East Coast came out and they documented the American cowboy, and we know all about him, but we don't know about the Spanish. So I do a little education along those lines too.
Great. Thank you very much.
You bet, Joe. Pleasure to be here.
Nice to shake your hand. Nice to see you.
You too.
Thank you.
Tell me your connection with John Conley.
I was doing the show that I do at Mary Brown's Festival West many years ago. And John saw the show, liked it, and we've been friends ever since. Anybody that likes my show instantly is a friend of mine. And we do a biodrama, which enables us to bring not only history to life, but let people meet the man instead of the myth. And also we do tell the story Hollywood did not tell on both Wyatt and the gentleman Doc Holliday. Recently I was performing in San Juan Capistrano, and I came up and saw the marquee up in front of the theater, and it said, tonight only, the gentleman Doc Holliday, played by Wyatt Earp. And so I went to the window and asked, how is the gate tonight? And she said, we've been sold out ever since we put the marquee up. I had a wonderful dialect coach who's passed away, but we do 2 theater pieces prevalently, and those 2 have taken us to 8 different countries. I just finished writing one on Will Rogers, and I've got a man out in California, an actor that looks just like him and owns a theater, and he is the man that did the biodrama on Jack London, and so I believe it's going to be a very, very good show, and it's also going to travel on a global basis. And why I'm speaking as I am is because through doing these biodramas and bringing the history of these characters of the past alive, we are going to be able to educate the next generation in a way that'll be memorable for them, other than the iPad and the computer, to know their roots. In Europe, when I perform over there, I have a lot of young people who know the history. I gave a bill to a young man in a store in Budapest, Hungary, and I said, will you change this to your money for me? And he said, yes. Oh, let me tell you about Benjamin Franklin. And I got a lesson for the next half hour from a 14-year-old that pinned my ears back and made me realize we need the next generation to know about our history and the American cowboy. And the wonderful thing about the American cowboy, from my point of view, is that he's a man that lives the history of the Wild West in the world today. That's the only place I see that ever happening. And so that's why I'm so excited about what we're doing here and what John's done and what I have the blessing to get to do in depicting Wyatt Earp life on the frontier.
So what's your take on more cowboy celebrations? Think there should be more or less?
I not only do think there should be more, but if you all look at Chronicles of the Old West and see all the activity that really is going on, you'll see there are an awful lot of Western festivals, and our cowboy poets are helping us a lot to keep it entertaining and alive. The gatherings are doing a lot of good. So I think there's, on balance, as many good things happening as not, but we all got to be very aggressive and realize that it's the squeaky wheel that gets the grease, and make a lot of noise about it. And as Cowboy Pepper knows, I am a singing cheerleader for anybody in this culture and in this community that's doing anything. And I've been singing his praises for years. And so that's what we can do for each other in getting the next generation to enjoy the benefit of our history, is just make a lot of noise about it to everybody possible.
And cowboys and cowgirls, your favorites?
Well, my favorites, obviously, one is really obvious, to be Hugh O'Brien for reasons that are clear. But I also enjoyed the Lone Ranger and Tonto and all the rest of them that you all enjoyed, just growing up in the 50s. And I thought they were just as remarkable as the heroism of our astronauts. So the answer is very simple. Probably Hugh O'Brien.
And cowboy life, what's it mean to you?
One thing, and it's what I mentioned a while ago, cowboy life is men living our history. And that's what I'm concerned about, is, as I say, the next generation knowing our history. And the men that practice as cowboys today and live the cowboy life are living examples of what our history is and was. And that's why it's so important to me.
Thank you very much.
You betcha.
Appreciate it.